Hello. All right, today we're going to talk about how to write a story summary or a summary of any other narrative work. So, first off, what is a summary? A summary is a brief account of a larger work that helps someone understand what happened in that work. One of the key words here is that it is brief. Brief means it is short. So, we're not telling every single thing that happened in this story, but we're telling only the most important information that someone would need to understand. Many of you may know the story of Cinderella, a story of a young girl who becomes a princess. So let's take a look at a summary of this story and see what the summary did well. So this is an example summary. It says, in Walt Disney's Cinderella, a beautiful young girl lives with her mother and father until her mother dies. Her father remarries a cruel woman who has two horrible daughters, Drizella and Anastasia. When Cinderella's father dies, her wicked stepmother turns her into a household servant, forcing her to cook and clean and take care of her stepsisters. One day, the king decides that his son, the prince, should marry, and he declares that every eligible maiden in the land will attend a ball so the prince can choose a wife. Cinderella wants to go, and her mice and bird friends help her make a dress, but her stepmother and stepsisters ruin it. Cinderella is saved, however, by her fairy godmother, who provides her with a dress, glass slippers, and a carriage. Cinderella attends the ball, where the prince dances with her all night and falls in love. Cinderella flees the ball at midnight before the magic wears off, but she leaves behind one of her shoes. The prince uses the shoe to search the whole land to find his bride. He finally finds Cinderella, and they live happily ever after. Now let's look at some of the things that are good about this summary. The first thing is you'll notice that the summary starts off by telling who wrote the story and what the name of the story is. Now, in this case, Walt Disney was the person who made the movie, but again, we want to give credit for who the story is from and what the title of the story is. This summary has also made sure to tell some of the main characters in the story. So we have our main character of Cinderella. We've also told some of the important minor characters, like her stepsisters, her father, the stepmother, and the prince, and the fairy godmother. The summary has also made sure that we tell the setting of the story. Where and when did it happen? So we know that this took place in the land, right? We could have been more specific, but sometimes that's all a story gives us. We know that it took place during the time where Cinderella lives with her mother and father, and then when he remarries and lives with the stepmother. So again, it doesn't always have to be a specific date that we're looking for, but we do want to give some time and some place information. And then this summary has made sure to tell just some of the most important events. For example, it tells us that the stepmother forces Cinderella to basically be a household servant, cook and clean and take care of the stepsisters. We didn't tell every single instance in the story where Cinderella does something, and we didn't tell specifically what all those things are, but we gave a broad understanding of the fact that she is not treated well, that she's treated like a servant. Same thing with when we come down here to the point where it talks about the prince going and searching for Cinderella. We talk about the fact that he uses the shoe to search the whole land, but we don't mention the fact of every single person that he meets along the way and what happens in all those encounters. One other important thing to note is that in our summary, we make sure to tell how the story ends. This is really important because a summary is different from what you might read on the back of a book. That is called a teaser. And that part is just going to give you a taste of what is to come. And it's usually going to end with some question like, will Cinderella find the love of her life? But a summary is not a teaser. A summary is telling from the very beginning of the story till the very end of the story what happened, just in a condensed format. When you're trying to write a summary, here are some tips for writing a good summary. The first one is to make sure that you can find what is the main idea. What is the most important thing or things that is happening in this story? Secondly, as we mentioned, you want to keep it brief. You are not telling every single thing, but you're simply giving a smaller, condensed version of the story. Imagine that, for example, you only have 2 minutes to tell somebody what the story is about. What would you say so that they could understand it? And I love this piece of information here where it says a summary paragraph is usually around 5 to 8 sentences. It does not need to be very long. Number 3 is a key point. You want to write without judgment. That means you're not telling things like, I think this was a great book, or this was a horrible story, or Cinderella was so stupid when she ran down the stairs. You are simply reporting the facts as if you were a TV news reporter who had to just report what he saw at an event. And then lastly, you want to make sure that your writing flows. Take time after you've read it to read your writing and make sure that you've used some nice transition words to help your writing flow together. If you're still stuck and wondering, well, I don't know, I'm not still quite sure about how to do this, you could use something like this writing frame where you can fill in important information about your story. This will give you kind of training wheels, like when you're first learning to ride a bike, to help you learn to write a summary. And then once you've got that idea down and that pattern down, you'll be free to embellish and to add to that and to write a little bit more on your own. You can access the summary or the writing frame, excuse me. You can access that by clicking up here on the title that is in blue. There's a link to the summary. It will have you make a copy, and then you can go ahead and use that to help you write your summary of your own stories.